Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, like Batman, we're rescuing orphans only to immediately put them in harm's way. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about my love of internet sensation Xing Xing.
Yes.
This big fat monkey.
Right, yes.
In China.
Right, and you also had like a little crisis where you were like, is the monkey a fat monkey because like it's ill-nourished and they're like manipulating you, or is this just like the way the monkey is?
And I've just, decided to put that in the back of my mind.
Those are questions too big.
I'm just enjoying the monkey, but what this has done though is altered my Instagram algorithm.
Yes.
And now it is under the impression that I want other monkey videos, which I don't. I don't, generally speaking, want to look at monkeys.
Sure.
Xing Xing, yes.
The exception.
Other, like, skinny monkeys, just, like in diapers and stuff? Like, no, I have no interest in it.
Do you think it will start giving you, when it realizes that, like, you're not engaging with all monkey content, do you think it'll be like, maybe other fat animals? So they'll be like, here's a fat owl.
I hope that is true. I hope that I don't have enough faith that will end up being the case.
Right.
But I would like it to be.
It is one of those things where you're like, Big Brother is stupid, right?
I know. Yes.
Where you're like, look, I get it. Everyone's so proud of your like AI ability to like predict what I'm gonna buy or whatever. But like, hey, I just bought underpants. Stop advertising underpants to me. I'm not gonna do that again for like 3 years.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh well, do I train the algorithm? Do I tell it I don't want to look at skinny monkey videos? I just want to look at fat monkey videos.
Every time I've tried to train the algorithm, you drive it insane. Like there's no actually training it, because you're like, no, I don't want to see this. Yes, I do want to see this. Then like it starts these like branching paths.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's kind of like way back in the day. Look, I know people still listen to Pandora, but when Pandora was, like new, and you're trying to like train it by saying, yes, I like this song. No, I don't like this song. And basically what I'm saying is I think you're right that it's not worth trying to train my Instagram algorithm, because what it's going to say is it'll be like, oh, he likes fat monkey videos.
Right.
So let's show him a bunch of monkey videos. And then, oh, he doesn't like these skinny monkey videos, but we're out of fat monkey videos. So I don't know what to do. Here's like boiling broccoli or something.
Right. I mean, I would watch those boiling broccoli videos.
You sicko.
Speaking of ways in which we're sickos, my copy of Sonic Forces, we are no longer lending that out for anyone to play for a short period of time and then send it back, or a long period of time. Used to be it would disappear for almost a year at a time. We are putting a program to a close, and we are sending out my copy of Sonic Forces and my copy of Untitled Goose Game in a Sonic Forces box to 2 lucky listeners who email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and that will be its forever home. They will be there forever. If you've entered into the Sonic Forces borrowing program before, you are already on the list. If you would like to add your name to the list, please email us. Let us know, and we will send it to you. We are picking forever homes for both of these games on real soon.
Yeah, so January 31st is the last day for you to send in your entry, and then on the next episode, whenever that is, we will, which I think will be a Thursday.
I think it'll be a Thursday episode. That's right.
We will draw the people who will receive it.
We'll draw 2 names. You'll get an email, and I'll see if you're still interested in housing one of these games. No, you will not know which one you're getting, and then I'll send it to you, and that'll be the end of that. We'll never have to have the pleasure of engaging with this perfect program ever again.
I mean, never say never, but yes.
Whoa, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know, but who can predict?
I mean, that threw me for a loop there, Mark. All entrants are welcome. So if you have not sent in your name before because you are an international listener to this show,
you're a scientist in Antarctica.
If you're a scientist, really scientist anywhere, you are now welcome to send your name in. Yeah, if this is a one-way ticket for this thing, I'll send it anywhere on this planet. Mark, we've got an email that I'd like to read from Aaron. The email is titled Souvenirs. Hi, Patrick and Mark. Looking forward to another great year of episodes. Sorry, another year of great episodes. I will be going to Japan in a few months, and I have a bunch of Nintendo-themed destinations planned. My first question is, what souvenirs do you want? That's very sweet of you, Aaron. You don't get us anything. But second, what is an IP or an item that you would buy? An IP or item that sure, this is the question. What is the IP or item that you would buy without hesitation? I'm probably going to be purchasing something Splatoon related since I haven't seen much of it in the States, but I would not hesitate to buy something with Chrono Trigger or the Earthbound series on it. So that's the question. Is there, and I think specifically like if you're on a Japan trip, what like item or IP would you be like, I've got to get something with blank on it?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think for me it would be Tingle, because I think Tingle is, like hard pressed to find Tingle merchandise in the United States, I think. But, but if I saw something in Japan, I would be very excited to own something Tingle related.
That's such a good answer. I'm gonna say I'm going to use one of our old hobby horses, and I'm going to say anything. If there was a little a rusty slugger, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it would have to, baseball.
It would have to be the or I mean, actually, it wouldn't have to be. But I wonder if instead of being rusty, it would be whatever the Japanese equivalent of rusty would be.
That's right.
But Aaron, yeah, that is super, super generous of you. I don't even know what's available. Like, I don't even know what I could.
I mean, here's what I would like to see. I'd like to see a picture of you at the Nintendo store.
Oh, that would be so fun.
That's cool. Send that to us.
Any like Nintendo-related mascot figures, send us pictures of you with them.
Absolutely. If you're being chased by a Waluigi through the store, like 100% we need a picture of that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully like an officially licensed Waluigi. And
whatever.
Not just
I'm not picky.
Skinny guy dressed up.
The last time I was at Disneyland, we went to Galaxy's Edge, and there was a little bit. We saw Boba Fett walking around. That was cool. I wanted to see Din because then he would have a little Baby Yoda on his belt. But there was a bit where Kylo Ren was walking around with two stormtroopers, right? Like he does. And I tried to get Kylo Ren to take a selfie with me, and the stormtroopers like waved me away. What's the deal with that? All the rest of the characters you can get your picture taken with. Kylo Ren doesn't want pictures.
Look, I'm not saying this is the case, but did you see other people doing it? Like, was it personal?
What? Now, why would you?
I don't know. I don't mean to put that into your mind.
I had not thought that. I would not think that. And now I do think that. Now I think that's what happened. Is it personal? All right, Mark, let's get into our topic today. Let's discuss some orphaned games that we would like to see on the Nintendo Switch. Now, Mark, do you want to tee us up as to why exactly we are talking about this in as it relates to rumors that are floating around at the moment?
Yeah, so we haven't really talked about it on the show, but there are rumors out there that after Tears of the Kingdom...
There's a world outside of Yonkers, Barnaby.
Listen, No, I refuse. In private, yes. On this show, only sometimes. So there are rumors that Nintendo, after, Tears of the Kingdom is obviously a heavy hitter. We know they have Pikmin 4. But that otherwise, 2023 and beyond is potentially a little lighter for Nintendo.
In terms of new stuff,
instead of in terms of like blockbuster games. And I obviously we have no clue whether those rumors are true or not, but that's kind of like the buzz that's out there. And that the kind of like the corollary to this is that there are also rumors that Nintendo is working on several remasters. So Metroid Prime,
persistent
remaster,
rumor.
persistent rumor. Recently a rumor has popped up that the F-Zero GameCube game, GX, is due for some sort of remaster. Maybe that Baten Kaitos, the GameCube game that was JRPG that was developed by Monolith Soft before they were absorbed by Nintendo,
Right.
is due for a remake. So that got us thinking, are there other games that are kind of like,
I think there are just a handful of other that like are maybe not in the current rumor mill, but like the rest of the Metroid Prime trilogy has also been sort of a like, oh yeah, that's done and Nintendo just has to push the button to release it, or the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD from Wii U. Those are all of these games are already in like this stew of games that feel like they could be coming to Switch at any time. So yeah, this is what we wanted to do. Was we wanted to try and like pick some games out that also feel orphaned on older hardware that haven't been revisited. And some of my picks like have been at least re-released on virtual consoles or are available in like some way sort of, but uh not on Switch in any way, right? Like I'm not picking Star Fox 64 or whatever, even though like a new Star Fox game would be fun. But so yeah, that's sort of our assignment here, is picking games out of Nintendo's past that are cut off from the current timeline and putting them on Switch.
Yep.
So we've each come with a couple examples here, 3 to 5. We have not discussed these ahead of time. I don't know how many Mark has. He doesn't know how many I have. But we can both guess the kinds of games that the other person is going to put on our lists. So Mark, would you like to go first or would you like to go second?
I elect to go second. Go ahead, Patrick.
Then I shall go first. And with my first, I'm going to both lean on an old hobby horse of mine and cheat. Because I'm not going to pick an individual game. I'm going to pick a whole game library. And it's not hard for me to pick this whole game library because it's only 14 games. I'm referring, of course, to the Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy, such a short-lived concept from 1995, totally unplayable. None of the games have been like reworked or recontextualized or anything. None of them. There's a Wario Land game on there. There's a Mario game on there. There's tennis. There's a boxing game.
Wait, what is the Mario game on there?
Mario Clash. So it's like the original Mario Brothers, but there are like two planes of action.
Right.
And so there are some of the enemies that you have to attack from above, some from below, and some you have to like huck a shell at from, if they're in the background, you have to throw it from the foreground and vice versa, right? So it's all of these games that like I get why like the Virtual Boy is a relative embarrassment for, not even a relative embarrassment, just kind of a straight up embarrassment for Nintendo. But there are, the 5 games that came out of Nintendo directly. There's Mario Tennis, Mario Clash, Virtual Boy Wario Land, Telero Boxer, and of course Nestor's Funky Bowling. And like of those games, I would be excited, like genuinely excited to have access again to Mario Clash, Wario Land, and Telero Boxer, and I'd at least turn on Nestor's Funky Bowling, because how many games you get to play as Nestor, right?
Right.
It's 2. It's Pilot Wing 64 in this, and then Intelligent Systems made a pinball game. That's the Fire Emblem studio. They made a pinball game called Galactic Pinball, which I remember being cool, but probably just because like a pinball machine is a pretty good application. Like a virtual pinball machine is a pretty good application for the Virtual Boy. And Atlas made a Shin Megami Tensei spin-off called Jack Brothers or Jack Bros. And the rest of it is all kind of shovelware. But that was what, 7 games? That's half the library right there that I'm at least interested in like turning on and spending a little bit of time with.
It definitely feels like a missed opportunity of the 3DS era to not have any Virtual Boy content on there. It's also been so, I guess from my perspective, it has been so long since the Virtual Boy was released and like bombed so hard that I think like Nintendo could capitalize on the small slice of people who have a fondness. Because
Yes.
I would guess that, like the majority of the world has no idea that the Virtual Boy existed.
Sure.
They're so far removed from the history and like the pain of the Virtual Boy that like for the people who do remember, it's remembered like
yeah.
kind of fondly at this point.
Well, and also like for people who weren't alive when the Virtual Boy existed, which those people are adults now. They that's 18 years ago the thing came out. That like are Super Nintendo games any stranger? And obviously the Super Nintendo has like a bomb library. It's incredible, but like it's a similar like historic curiosity at this point. Why not trot these things out? And especially when like the bones of a lot of these games are fun, they're just like unplayable in this like black and red presentation.
Right, which I don't think you would need to bring that part of it over. You could do a grayscale like Game Boy, and I totally get.
Or just color them up. Like who cares? Like
that's true.
Just like make new models. Like if Teleroboxer, all it is punch out but with robots. Which like yeah, just do that. Just make Teleroboxer, right? Like why not? That's a killer concept.
Yeah, it seems like you could just package all of these up in a single collection if you wanted to, or sell them for like $5 a piece. Yeah, it is just like I never owned a Virtual Boy, but I remember playing with one, and I wouldn't say that I have a fondness for any of the games, but I would certainly be interested in checking it out if they ever released them.
Virtual Boy Wario Land in particular is one that I like. I know I've played and beaten that game, and I know that it is a good Wario Land game, which by the way, there isn't one on Switch. There is no Wario Land game on Switch, even though they've made like 5 or 6 of them in the past. So anyway, that's my first entry here is just Virtual Boy games. Even if they are only the first party Virtual Boy games, that's still 5 of them.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see again someday.
Yeah, and like sell them all on like one card, right? Like I don't know. It seems like it would be such a cool thing to trot out as like a part of their history, and so in line with like what they did with Famicom Detective Club, right?
Totally.
Of like remember these ancient classics that actually no you don't actually remember, but there was some greatness hidden there. That's all I want.
Well, my first pick is from the Nintendo DS, and it's I guess kind of a cheat as well, because it's actually not a Nintendo developed game anyways, but it's Dragon Quest IX Sentinels of the Starry Sky.
This is such a great pick.
And so one of the things that sets Dragon Quest IX apart from other Dragon Quest games is that it had a multiplayer aspect. So you and I think it was 3 friends in local multiplayer could team up and like play together. So it was a little bit kind of taking from like Diablo, like trying dipping its toes into this like idea of a persistent like RPG type thing. Not really like an MMO, but dipping its toes.
Right. It's it's still an MMO, but like a minimally multiplayer online game. Well, and online isn't totally right either.
Right.
Minimal multiplayer, local. So an MML. Yeah, you're a little bit underselling the because the game is balanced for multiple people to play it, right? It's not really balanced for and becomes a very grindy experience if you're playing it by yourself.
Yes, that is true. And I played this game by myself, and so my experience with it was there is a lot of grinding in Dragon Quest IX if you're playing by yourself in order to complete it. And, it's not like the ultimate multiplayer experience from my understanding. If I'm playing with you and you're way leveled than or higher level than me, or I haven't advanced, like only your progress saves. Do you know what I mean? Like the main person, like all that kind of stuff. But it was a really cool idea. But the second part of it that is not like a continuous online was this kind of like asynchronous online that was so popular in Japan that it apparently heavily influenced Street Pass for the Nintendo 3DS.
Ooh.
And so the way that it worked is that if you had Dragon Quest IX save data and I had Dragon Quest IX save data, and we were like past each other on a train or a convention or just like on the street, our DSs would talk to each other, and I could get like a map from you would get something from me, and they're like these just like little mini dungeons for you to go and explore that
Yeah,
were
sure.
randomly generated, and it was incredibly popular in Japan, because there were so many DSs, and so the game kind of like never ended for a lot of people because you
Yeah.
were getting all of these new dungeons, meaning it was just a way for you to go and continue the game and get new treasure and continue to level your characters without having to grind the same areas over and over. But
No, that well, and like applying that sort of logic to now, if it's just like that you have a friend who is on your Switch's friend list that is also playing the game, that you would either automatically or you could like choose to send your friends gifts. Obviously, that's something that has become so much a part of online gaming in the decade, the 2020s, that like yeah, that would be perfectly applied there.
yeah,
And also it would be so easy to party up because you could just do it online.
totally.
I don't want to step on any toes, so tell me if you have one of these later on, but like the same sort of thing applies to like Triforce Heroes and Metroid Prime Federation Forces,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, 100%. I don't have either of those on my list, but yes, like especially I feel like actually, all three of those, you're totally right, because I never played Sentinels of the Starry Sky online, like with friends or anything. You and I, with Matt Acevedo, played Triforce Heroes, and that was a lot of
That
fun.
was a great time, yeah.
But I've never played Federation Forces, and now trying to get people to play it with like a 3DS would be impossible.
Sounds insane, yeah.
But yeah, put these games on Switch for sure.
Because like just imagine like yeah, yeah, and you've got the phone app, so you could do like the voice chat with them too. 'Cause
Right,
of course you'll never allow it.
and now that there is other Metroid games in the world and announced,
Yes.
I feel like the poison that surrounded Federation
Right,
Forces
right.
could
No. Here's the thing: you would have to show us something of Prime 4 before, like, if at the Nintendo Direct in February, there's like a Metroid Prime logo, and then it says Federation Forces 2. The cities would burn, Mark.
But yeah, Dragon Quest 9, my pick.
That's a very good pick. Mark, for my second pick, this is a game that has been ported to one other system, but even that system is now, in the past of Nintendo's whatever. Why is this sentence still going? They should have stopped. The game is in the past. I'm referring, of course, to Diddy Kong Racing. A Nintendo 64 game developed by Rare, featuring Diddy Kong and his friends as they do kart racing on an island. If you're saying, hey, that sounds like Mario Kart, you're not wrong. It's very Mario Kart E. But with a couple of huge exceptions, right? So I just want to get through some sort of like base stats about the game, right? 8 playable characters, 2 unlockable in addition to that. In the DS re-release, 2 of those characters are replaced by Dixie and Tiny Kong. And it's because they had to replace Banjo and Conker, who appear there before they appear in their own games. So Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day had not yet come out, and obviously those are now very squarely like mascots for Rare, who is now owned by Microsoft. So like, would they ever be back on a Nintendo platform? Who knows? And I know that Banjo-Kazooie is available on the Nintendo 64 NSO, but this feels different. There are 3 different vehicles that you can drive in the game. There's a cart, which is, you think of as kind of normal. There's a hovercraft, which goes over water and like kind of steers in a loose kind of way. And then there's a plane, which flies in the air, Mark. There are 5 different kinds of power-ups, each with 3 different levels of strength. So as you're like driving towards a balloon, if it's red, that's going to be a projectile, and you get 2 red ones in a row, and it like levels up that projectile. So it's like a missile, and then it's a homing missile, and then it's like 3 missiles. Blue is for boosts. Green is like a trap, like an oil slick or whatever. Yellow is shields, and rainbow is magnets. There are 20 tracks split up over 5 different themed worlds. There are the DS version adds another world. There are 4 challenge levels based on each of the first 4 worlds, 5 boss races, and challenge races in the overworld. Like, it is just it is a game rich in content and is just enough of a twist on the Mario Kart formula to make it not feel redundant to Mario Kart. And Mario Kart is in a place where does it go from here?
Right.
Where, like, and it must, that energy, that appetite must go somewhere. But like, if you make a new Mario Kart game, it's just got to be like brand new, and then it'll have like a third the content of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So like, Diddy Kong Racing is the answer.
Ooh, would be perfect for like setting the stage for a Donkey Kong renaissance. If that rumored Donkey Kong game from like the Mario team
Yes.
ever is real and exists, kind of like prime the pump a little bit with
yes.
Diddy Kong Racing.
Prime the Pump with Diddy Kong Racing has, like I said, already been remade for the DS. And while that version does, like I said, add a whole world full of 4 new tracks, it is real bad in that it, at the beginning of every race, you know how in Mario Kart, there's like the little do 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 do, and you gotta like push the button at the right time to get like a little boost off the starting line. Depending on what vehicle you are piloting, there's a different little like touch mini game you have to play. So like if it's the plane, you have to like spin the propeller with the stylus, which is just drawing a circle as fast as you can, and then you got to like throw this thing so you can put your hand on the button to make it go. I believe it's the hovercraft that you have to blow into it.
Oh no,
it's bad news. So we could cut that part out, lift it out entirely, get the new content, but like absolutely not have that component in there.
That's a great pick. My second pick is, I hate to say it, but probably a bad game.
Ooh.
But I would like to see it rehabilitated. The reason I thought of this is because Knights of the Old Republic on a ton of systems, but also is getting a remake, or was getting a remake.
I don't think happening anymore.
Who knows what's happening anymore there. But I think there's a similar game for the Nintendo 64 that is due for her rehabilitation, and that, of course, is Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
It has one...
Has it even, because like we're in that age of like Star Wars remasters, right? Or like, but it's not in that in those games?
I don't think so. I don't think Shadows of the Empire has...
I think you're right.
So I think it was released on PC.
Okay.
In like 98, but I don't even think it's available on like Steam nowadays.
Sure, so
do you know
still
what I mean? Like,
pre-Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Like I think it has been many years since you could buy a new copy of Shadows of the Empire, and I think it is time for that tyranny to end.
Wow.
Let us play Shadows of the Empire. Let us play a better version of Shadows of the Empire. Like the first level of that game, a powerhouse. It's the Battle of Hoth.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. The rest of the game, a mixed bag.
Yeah, a mixed bad. I mean, this is definitely a game that's a candidate for like from the ground up remake, right? Where it's like some people saw drawings of Shadows of the Empire. They read the book and they had the Prince Zizor action figure, and they were like, "All right, got it. We'll make the game. We know what Dash Rendar's deal is." Yeah, and I just like think of how crazy it would be if they used the like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order engine to remake
like all this
Shadows
like motion capture. It's like super realistic.
Who plays Dash Rendar for you?
Yeah, what actor nowadays is Dash Rendar-esque?
It's tough. I mean, what actor was Dash Rendar-esque in 1990?
Chuck Norris
or whatever. Just because he's redhead? Does he have a goatee? Does Dash have a goatee?
In my mind's eye, Dash has like a beard of some sort.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing too. Anyway,
it's I just think it's a game that would be fun to kind of like excavate and rehabilitate.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think I would want to play just like a cleaned up version of it, or like an HD version of it. I don't think that's enough.
No, I think if they included that on like Nintendo Switch Online, then that would be a good addition.
Yeah,
right.
Totally,
you could dabble with it. But
honestly, it'll be as good as playing GoldenEye. They'll be the same good. Aren't going to be fun experiences. I know we're excited, but let's dial it back.
So yeah, Shadows of the Empire.
It's a good pick, Mark. Would also like to see Shadows of the Empire the game expanded to include, the adventures of like Leia and Luke as they are in the book.
Oh,
like that's cool stuff. And I understand all of that is relegated to Legend now, so like,
but that's fine. It can be a Legends game.
It can be a Legends game.
Go crazy.
It's fine. All right. The third game on my list is not a cool pick. This isn't cool, Mark.
That is hard for me to believe. Coming from you?
Thank you. This is a profoundly uncool pick. But I think the Switch is in enough hands now that enough people have it. And enough different kinds of game players have it, and gaming has evolved to be this like, bigger net that catches all these other people who are just interested in doing whatever on their systems. Nintendogs and cats. Let's bring this concept back, that you can just have a dog that you take care of, that you check in on, that you take to the park. You can either play with it on your TV, or you could actually take it to the park. You could send your dog to your friend so that your dogs could play together. Like why isn't this a thing in like the modern age where you just have like a little virtual pet?
Yeah,
and why isn't it a phone game too? Like both things are true.
But I think I could totally see it living on the Switch. I feel like the Joy-Con, bring so much. Obviously, on the DS and the Nintendo 3DS, having the touchscreen interface, made a difference. But I just feel like the Joy-Con can't replicate that. But you still have a lot of freedom in what you could do, and then you still have the touchscreen aspect of like the Switch in handheld mode.
I mean, I think it honestly makes because the two big things that you do with the touchscreen and Nintendogs are petting the dog, which that is probably hard to replicate. Although I don't know with HD Rumble, like if there's some sort of like feedback of you.
Yeah, how many ice cubes are in this dog?
How many? No one knows. But like throwing a stick for the dog, like that can be replicated easier on with Joy-Cons.
Also in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you're able to pet and like rub Pokemon using the Joy-Con.
Always able to rub Pokemon. Let me rub a dog.
Yeah.
Also, like, give me like an HD like Labrador puppy that like it loves me and is just excited to see me and never ages or dies or gets sick. Like, yeah, of course I want that.
Yeah.
I also think it'd be very fun to, if it were like more smartly integrated with social media, and people could be sharing pictures of their Nintendog, doing whatever tricks they teach it, or it just being like weird around the house or whatever like that. I think it could be very cool with like modern touches to it.
It also feels like it would fit perfectly in this like $30 price range.
Absolutely,
do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be an incredible like HD experience,
right?
But I think it would get a lot of love at that price point. Is just something you just have an opportunity to just kind of like mess around with.
Yeah,
feels like it could be like Animal Crossing, like
yes.
breakout hit type thing.
Totally. And I think one thing that would be clutch, and I know the Switch is so far away from being able to do this, but like if you could have it so that it's like a quick resume kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And like that, if they have it running on using a little enough memory or whatever, that it could just be like an app that is running in conjunction with whatever game you're currently playing. So you don't have to like close out of Fire Emblem Engage.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean?
Yep.
So maybe that's beyond the Switch's capabilities, but like you can go into the eShop or engage with like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff without having to close the game you're currently playing. So like, I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are loading very slowly loading.
I understand
a web page, but it's also okay. I was just looking it up, and Nintendogs originally released in 2005, so we're getting perilously close to 20 years since the original Nintendogs.
Yeah,
and that is perfect for the nostalgia cycle.
Yeah, we are getting perilously close. So wait, that means before when I said people that the Virtual Boy isn't 18 years old. It's 28 years old.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Oh my God. I just turned to dust at this table. I said it, and it was like, it feels like it should be older than that, but oh well.
No, you're totally right.
Yeah,
I didn't clock it either. Yep, makes total sense. Nintendog's almost 20 years old.
So anyone preparing an email to us to be like, hey, you got that math wrong. We caught it. We got there.
Nintendog's got us there.
Also, Nintendogs across the series on DS sold 23.96 million copies.
Oh my gosh.
If that was on Switch, that would be the 6th best-selling game on Switch.
Yeah, just not to keep harping on this, but just imagine, it's almost been 20 years, it's been 18 years. So imagine people who played Nintendogs as kids.
Right.
And then now, they are right for that nostalgia cycle, but also in a few years, potentially will be having kids of their own and, can share that experience with them. I don't know. I think it's a no-brainer.
I think it's a good one. Also, it's good like training wheels for like getting your own dog, right? That's it. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you for what is either an obvious point or a bad one. Mark, your next game.
One last question. Did you? I know. Oh yeah. This turned into a Nintendogs podcast. Did you own or play Nintendogs?
Yeah, I had a Nintendog. Yeah. She was a little terrier. Her name was Lena. And I loved it. Like, loved taking her for a little walk. Loved trying to teach her how to catch a frisbee. She wasn't good at catching the frisbee, and I was bad at training her. Did you ever have a Nintendog?
No, I never did.
It's very fun. It's just like, it's maybe not even like a game really, but just is this nice like simulation, and it's chill, and the music is nice, and the dog's cute. So like, what more do you want?
My third pick is also I chose one game from this series, but any of them will suffice. And the one game I chose is one that is a Japan-only release, who again, I think its time has come to be released outside of Japan. And that, of course, is Ripen Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love for the Nintendo DS. But I think there's 3 Tingle games that were released for the Nintendo DS in Japan. And we didn't get any of them.
Well, so wait, is Balloon Trip of Love, is that the one that's just Balloon Fight?
No, Balloon Trip of Love is actually. Let me double check,
because there are 2 of them that are Tingle romance games, and then there's one that is just Balloon Fight.
No, this is not. This is an adventure game.
Okay, great.
So the game's storyline starts with an ordinary 35-year-old man who watches a direct sales program on television and orders a book said to make its readers popular among women. And then when the man opens the book, he gets sucked into a picture book world. And in this world, he becomes Tingle wearing a green costume. And Tingle meets 3 characters who accompany him on his journey to escape the world.
Yeah.
So it's mostly an adventure game. There's like a little bit of a romance element.
So he's going to like buy the pickup artist or whatever? What's the name of that book?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't specify.
It doesn't specify.
Good.
This description that I'm reading doesn't specify, but
so a regular 35-year-old man who is not Tingle becomes Tingle in a magical world.
In this magical world, yeah.
And the people that he teams up with are other Tingles?
No, they're not. They are.
Well, that's good at least.
They're kind of inspired by the Wizard of Oz characters, apparently.
I love it.
So there's
Can they cross over with the codename Steam universe at all?
I'd be fine with that. There's Kakashi the Scarecrow, Buriki the Tin Robot Woman, and Lion the Lion.
Sure. Don't change that one. That one's perfect.
That one's good. Okay, so released in 2009, and we've talked about this before, but Tingle, I would say, the United States, the world outside of Japan has turned around on. There was a time when Tingle was first, introduced, I would say, and especially when we were in the
Majora's Mask, right? 2000.
Yeah, but when we were in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era, when these kind of Tingle games were coming out, the atmosphere in the gaming world was not ready for Tingle games.
Right. There's like a pervasive homophobia in gaming which is not to say that Tingle is gay, but there's something about Tingle that just reads as sexual other that I think people were like, I can't deal with that. And the thing is, Tingle has not changed at all, right?
Tingle hasn't changed we've
the
changed.
culture has changed. Yes, that's right. We are now like, oh, you're off-putting, and that's the appeal.
Yes. No, I think that is 100% true. The weirder Tingle is, the more we will love him.
Yes, absolutely.
And so yeah, I think it's just time. Let's get some real Tingle games.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the number of times that we have pitched like Tingle sequels or like just putting Tingle in stuff, like yeah, I mean, we would have no choice but to stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
We must. Um, Mark, I have another cheat here for my fourth answer, because it is uh possibly like 60 games or possibly four different collections of games. Um, I'm referring to the Game and Watch and Game and Watch Gallery games, originally on Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. Obviously, you and I did a deep dive into the Game and Watch like a year and a half ago, where we played as many of these games as we could. We kind of got like deeply immersed into the sort of like culture of Game and Watch machines, and it's such a like long lost relic of what Nintendo used to do. And there was this period in the late 90s where they were like putting together these collections and not only representing the games as they originally were, but also doing like modern versions of every one of those games, right? Like, and some of those modern versions are transformative enough to almost be different game experiences, in and of themselves. Some of them are better, some of them are worse, some of them are about the same. But the point is, there are four of these collections, these Game and Watch galleries, and then there's also two different volumes of what are just called Game and Watch collection that were available on DS, both as like My Nintendo rewards back in the day. And like, what? Where is all this Game and Watch goodness? Like, where? Why don't we have just like a giant collection, a Game and Watch museum that has all of these classic versions of these games, all the modern versions of them, which are now themselves 20 years old. Um, that's it. I just want the Game and Watch collection volume 2 is the one that combines Parachute and Octopus. So it's like Parachute on the top screen and Octopus on the bottom. You can only play that on this extremely rare DS cart that you have to spend like 1,000 platinum points to buy in like 2007, and now like it's unplayable in any other way. So like, what? Where is that experience?
Do you know I think this is a really fun idea, and one thing I would really love to see that we don't really get from Nintendo very often outside of maybe like a Q&A that they publish on their website or
Mm-hmm.
something. But for the Castlevania collections, like the
Yeah.
Advanced Collection, and I can't remember what the other one was, but yeah, just
There's there's just like the Castlevania collection,
oh, okay,
which
and
had
then
like
the
the NES, Genesis, Super
uh-huh.
NES, and Game Boy games. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Advanced collection had
Yeah, and what is really fun about those is like the museums that come with them,
yes.
with a lot of archival material and talking about the game and the creation and that sort of stuff. And when we were doing our deep dives into Game and Watch, it was that sort of thing that was really interesting to me, because you realized how like analog the creation of these games were, and
Yes.
so much trial and error in the rate that they were putting them out, and how like remarkable they were able to find these fun gameplay loops with really simple mechanics.
And like some of these things fold vertically, some of them fold horizontally, some of them have like two controllers that like come out as like separate controllers. They made a Donkey Kong ice hockey game, for crying out loud.
So it would just be so cool to have this collection like you're talking about, but also have the kind of like loving archival materials to go along with it.
Yes.
That would be such a complete package for me.
Yeah. Well, and like, so I believe it was Digital Eclipse who recently worked with Atari to put out that Atari 50 game that basically does what we're describing here. But I actually have affinity for a lot of these Game and Watch games in a way that I just don't for like old Atari games. And it summons like the same, not quite the same level of history, but like the earliest Game and Watches go back to 1980, like 80 on the dot. Some Atari stuff predates that, but like that's the beginning. That's like primordial video game stuff. And it's just weird that Nintendo had such a presence there with all these cool machines that are just largely forgotten now.
My next pick is
This is pick number 4
the
for
pick
Mark.
number 4. Maybe potentially happening. We've had the faintest whispers of hints, but it's Kid Icarus Uprising for the Nintendo 3DS. We played this as part of Kid Icarus Month. It was my first time ever diving into it. And one thing that, because I did not buy it when it was first released, I didn't realize how much of a Masahiro Sakurai game Kid Icarus Uprising is.
Yeah.
And I kind of got bored with the gameplay loop of Uprising, and I didn't end up finishing it. But there is so much, like, the love for video game history that Sakurai infuses into, like, Super Smash Brothers and Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. That same attention and love is given to Kid Icarus in Kid Icarus Uprising, and not just the game itself, but in all of the other content that exists in the game. And just like and then putting aside like the Kid Icarus love, there's also just so many kind of amazing systems in it.
Yeah.
Like all these small little like mini games or subsystems, like choosing the difficulties of levels, and that changes like your reward. And I don't know, it's just such a remarkable package that feels like it would be such a waste to be stuck on the Nintendo 3DS
and be stuck on a platform that did not have the correct controller inputs for it, right? Like the game is notoriously hard, like physically hard to control, because you've got to hold it with one hand, so you're like shooting with your left index finger and aiming with the stylus with your right hand, which is not intuitive. Like it's not how you control anything else. And it just was badly in need of like optional dual stick controls, and it just simply never had it. So like that's one way, and it is like ultra orphaned on that machine. But also like just thinking about how visually spectacular the game is, to see that with like an HD shine on it, like everything looking awesome and not on like a tiny little screen, would be incredible. There's another like aspect to the game that I feel like is invisible from the outside, or that like you can't get from just like gameplay videos or like knowing its reputation, and it's that there is such a deep mythology to this like Kid Icarus that they're playing around with, and some of it borrows from like like Hades is a character, so there's like like Greek mythology in here, but then there's also just like there are aliens and like all this other stuff, and like the game sort of like doubles back on itself, where like you're fighting Veridi at first, who is she has like a it's called a reset bomb, which is going to take like the civilized world back to nature by destroying everything, and so like you stop that, but then here comes like an alien threat, and then you got to work together with her, and like there are just all of these like interesting relationships and all this mythology that builds on itself to tell a really like interesting and compelling story that so few people have experienced, because it's a hard game to play and you don't like know that that's what it is from the outside.
Plus, we've said this about a couple of other games, but what a boon to have the multiplayer for this game on a system where it's easier to play with people, and there's lots of people that own the system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I forgot about the multiplayer in there.
Yeah, and it's like a 4-person deathmatch type thing, but there would be more of an audience for it, potentially easier to find matches.
Well, there was some like variation on the deathmatch where like one person is like the exterminator trying to like kill all the others, and like if you take down the exterminator, like you get extra points. Like it had like fun little ways to like twist on just like a straight up 4-person deathmatch. But also like how many games that are like 3D action games have that sort of like deathmatch style gameplay?
Yeah,
like outside of first person shooters, like there really aren't any. Anyway, that'd be super cool. Yes to Kid Icarus Uprising. Mark, for my final pick, my 5th and final pick. Look, we just got a new Fire Emblem game. My copy of Fire Emblem Engage arrived today. I'm very excited. I am now no longer upset with UPS or Target or Nintendo. There are so many Fire Emblem games that A, never made it to the West, B are locked on older systems, the Game Boy Advance, the DS, the 3DS, but also on the Wii and GameCube. I'm referring, of course, to Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance, and Radiant Dawn, its direct sequel. Games that I have never touched. And if I were interested in picking up one of them right now, first of all, I only have a Wii U, so I could play a Wii game, but I can't play the GameCube game, right? So I could only play Radiant Dawn. It resells for like $200 at the
Oh my
moment.
gosh.
And it's just like, why? For a series that is so much a part of, that is so interested in looking at its own history, right? Like Fire Emblem Warriors, the first game was very much, pulling characters out of the past. Fire Emblem Heroes was all characters from Fire Emblem's past. Fire Emblem Engage is pulling characters from Fire Emblem's past. Smash is characters from Fire Emblem's past. It's just like, that's the part of what the game is its own legacy. Why are so many of the games unplayable on Switch?
It is really interesting that, and this is actually another one that there are rumors that a remake. I don't think it's of the
Ooh.
Wii game, but of like a previously unavailable in the West Fire Emblem is
Right.
in the works for Switch.
But like even the 3DS games, like Awakening and Fates and the other one, Echoes. Why not bring all of those to Switch as well? Especially knowing that the third Fates sold as like two different versions, right? There was the Rebirth and Conquest, but there was a third version that was like Revelations or something like that was only available as DLC. So like, if you don't buy that between now and March, it's gone forever.
It does feel like there's
can't buy it physically.
It does feel like there's a real opportunity there, just like we saw with Echoes on the 3DS.
Right.
To kind of like excavate, because Fire Emblem has such a long history that, yeah, it does feel like a missed opportunity not to capitalize on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder how much of that will or would change if they were to start putting like newer libraries on the Nintendo 64 or the Nintendo Switch Online. Like if there's a GBA library, surely those at least the two that came out in North America on GBA would be part of that library. But it's just like we haven't quite gotten there yet.
Mm-hmm. My final pick
pick from Mark Mitchell
is I have a bonus one.
Ooh.
But it's also
penultimate pick from Mark Mitchell.
It's also an Intelligent Systems game,
mm-hmm.
and from the GameCube era, and it's Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door.
Yeah,
for being such a like beloved entry in the Paper Mario series, a lot of people consider it the best of the series. It has never been released outside of the GameCube. Like, that was your one opportunity to play it, which is so crazy for being such an amazing game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is nuts. And like kind of weird to think of how, obviously we've had the one exception of the original Paper Mario is available on the Nintendo Switch Online service. But other than that, like the Paper Mario games live where they live and that's it. Like then they move on.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Why?
That is weird.
So this is something that actually like flitted through my head as well. Not Paper Mario specifically, but Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, one of my favorite games. That when you were first pitching this episode concept to me, that one of the games that you pulled out as an example of like games that got this treatment was Crisis Core, right? Final Fantasy VII Reunion, and like just thinking about if you were to take Super Mario RPG and be like, okay, so that's Final Fantasy VII, and let's do a Super Mario RPG remake in the same way that they did Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you're like running around like an active combat zone as like Mario and Bowser and Gino and Mallow. Like that's awesome. That would be so cool, but I don't think Thousand Year Door needs that treatment, right? Thousand Year Door kind of just needs to be represented.
Yeah, I think if you made Thousand Year Door HD, that it would hold up really well. I mean, look, Thousand Year Door, not a perfect game. Backtracking is an issue in the first two Paper Mario games. I can't remember what Super Paper Mario is like, but for the first two for sure. But it's a classic. It is an amazing game. It's kind of a shame that it is stuck on the GameCube and that it hasn't, and especially with as well as the Origami King did. I think it is just like we've talked about with Nintendogs and a lot of these other games, just an opportunity to like present these games to an audience that I think is primed to appreciate them.
Yeah. Well, and so, A Thousand Year Door is a GameCube game, right? And GameCube is that like perfect, like it's right in the barrel, right? Of being like long enough ago, but not so long ago that like the gameplay is fundamentally old game, you know? Um
Yeah,
that like
Resident Evil 4 was a GameCube game.
Resident Evil 4 was a GameCube game. That's getting remade. Capcom knows what they're doing. Why doesn't Nintendo know what they're doing?
It's also just like strange to me how hard it is to play GameCube games.
Yeah, it's impossible at this point. Like, unless you have a Wii sitting around, and what? Only like 100 million people do. Where do you think all the Wiis are now?
I think they're in people's basements.
You think they're in people's basements?
I think my parents still have a Wii.
I get you. Here's my guess is that people who had their Wiis like early gave it to their friend who had kids, and then the kids have now grown up and don't play with that Wii anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it is like you say in a lot of basements, but I think it is even now like moved past the secondhand, the hand-me-down market, right? And I don't believe it will be handed down again.
Right. Well, especially now that they've stopped making Just Dance games for it.
I mean, look, Ubisoft deserves everything that's coming to them because they stopped putting the Just Dance games on the Wii.
Can I give you my bonus game?
I would love for you to give me your bonus
It's Geist from the GameCube.
It's Geist!
Geist is like a first-person puzzle game type thing where you...
Yeah, with shooting elements.
Yeah, shooting elements. It was developed by the N Space, so it's like a rare kind of like Western developed or outside of Japan developed Nintendo published game.
With a lot of oversight and meddling, perhaps, from Miyamoto. Miyamoto was sincerely and severely interested in Geist and in the haunting mechanic of this game.
Right. So like famously you can like haunt like dog water bowls and just like all this kind of
You
stuff.
can haunt a shower head. You have to haunt a shower head to scare a woman who's taking a shower.
Okay. John Ramey, a civilian scientist and member of counterterrorism team CR2, is sent to investigate the Volks Corporation and retrieve undercover agent Thomas Bryson, Ramey's best friend.
2003?
2005.
2005. I was just wondering when Nintendo started using counterterrorism in their vocabulary.
One of the agents becomes possessed, kills the rest of the team. Raimi is then captured and his soul removed from his body. I mean, there's a lot going on in this game.
Right.
So, like, do I actually want to play this again? I don't know. But it's one of those, moments from Nintendo's history that I don't think we should forget about. And I would love if, Geist is represented someday in a Smash Brothers game as a trophy. I think it's fun to see Nintendo pull out these kind of obscure moments from its history.
Yeah, I mean it's fun, and it's not just like an obscure thing, because it is that, but it also shares the like dubious honor of being one of those like, no, but we're mature though. One of those like
it's
one of
so rare in Nintendo's
sin and
history.
Punishment kind of things where it's like no, but like sometimes
Project Hammer.
Sometimes our dudes have guns too, where it's like okay, and sometimes you're a ghost that you need to haunt the dog bowl so you can scare the dog so you can possess the dog, right?
Right.
Man, what a weird what a weird thing. We mentioned it earlier, and I promise we won't just name every game that's not on Switch. But we mentioned Codename Steam earlier. And obviously like tactical RPGs are having a bit of a moment now, right? And even like on Switch, like the Mario Rabbids, which underperformed to Ubisoft's expectations, but those are big games for a Switch. They had an XCOM-like game in codename Steam, developed by Intelligent Systems, and featuring like wacky characters from A, American history, and B, literature. Um, and it's just a big dumb game that would be fun to see on Switch.
Do you think that there's
gone forever?
Do you think
though.
that there's an audience? Because I don't think there's an audience for Geist. Do you think that there's an audience for Codename Steam?
No, I mean it's no, it's probably. I would bet there's more of an audience for Geist, just because like it's a little bit older, and although I don't know, they're both so bizarre.
Yeah, but Nintendo prove us wrong.
Nintendo prove us wrong. Because we were saying that they're not going to do this. I don't know. All right, Mark, those are the Orphaned games that we would like to see come out on Switch. Let's close this out. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. You should join our Discord. Email us to get an invitation. We're Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We will let you in if you ask to be let in. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.